This episode is brought to you by Trailer Park Yard Games, where over 28 games are delivered directly to your party. We park the trailer, you party.
I don't know. It didn't feel like we were a farm then, but then I look back now and we had a donkey and we had Chuggers and we had...
Chuggers?
Chuggers are terrible.
What are Chuggers?
Chuggers are
I thought you just named an animal.
Yeah,
No.
I thought it was a derogatory. I'm like, what did you have?
I don't know where they showed up. My dad brought home a cage full of these birds called Chuggers. I think they're related to pigeons or quail or something.
Oh.
But they were really mean to each other. And
Let's have a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.
Hey, welcome to the PB and Jaisy podcast. My name is Jaisy George and I am joined by
Sarah Paget and
Bill Stedham.
and we are the PB and Jaisy podcast. So thanks for being here. Is there anything that y'all like more than a new face in the office?
besides lunch, when people bring free lunch, I
Okay.
like that. But I do like new faces.
I love new faces
Yes.
in the office.
And it's great when it's a driven, kind of quirky person that's looking to learn and stuff like that. I remember a few months ago, we had someone join our office, and something that they said that was very uncomfortable for them was being on social media, specifically making videos of themselves and showing themselves on social media.
What do you mean showing
But
themselves?
not on OnlyFans or anything like that. That's something else.
Because that
What
is
is
uncomfortable.
I don't know, maybe. I'm not here
no.
to judge.
Bill's making notes.
Maybe we'll discover that this person does have an OnlyFans. I'm not really sure.
Maybe.
But they did say that because that did make them uncomfortable, they wanted to push themselves out of their comfort zone and start doing that. And from that, I've been seeing Wild and Out Wednesdays. Is that right? Wacky Wednesdays? Wingin' It Wednesdays is what it is. So we are joined by the producer of Wingin' It Wednesdays, Jessica Williams. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, hi guys, I'm here. So do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you.
Tell us where you're from, what you do.
I'm trying to figure out who this person is that you're talking about. I'm like, who joined us that could possibly be? And I'm like, oh, me. I don't know what to say. I'm Jessica.
Where are you from?
Her mama's belly.
Yes, that's where I came from. No, I spent my first 18 years in California, and then I got to Texas as soon as I could.
What part of California?
You and Bill both.
Yes, Central Coast, San Luis Obispo County, past the Robles.
So, small world, I did not know this, but I went into the Air Force. I was living in Orchid, California, which is on the Central Coast also. My dad worked for Pantry Food Markets
Sweet.
and Williams Brothers, which was up in that area all the time.
All up in that.
But you were like negative 47
Yes. I
Yeah.
was, yes.
at that
Y'all
time.
did not.
Whoa, are you
did not-
making an age comment?
Y'all did
course.
not cross paths.
No.
But tell us a little bit about your life. I know that you've got farm animals and the such. Have you always had animals?
Growing up, yes, we always had animals. We had lots of like random things. Like we weren't really. I don't know. We weren't. It didn't feel like we were a farm then, but then I look back now and we had a donkey and we had Chuggers and we had.
Chuckers?
Chuggers are terrible.
What are
What are
chuckers?
they?
Chuggers.
Chuggers are.
I thought you
like
just
a-
like named an animal.
Yeah.
No.
I thought it was a derogatory. I'm like, what did you have?
I don't know where they showed up. My dad brought home a cage full of these birds called Chuggers. I think they're related to pigeons or quail or something.
Oh.
But they were really mean to each other and like
Did
What
they
do you
lay
do
eggs?
with them?
they like tore each other's heads off. Like
Did they lay eggs and stuff? Did y'all eat the eggs?
I would not be surprised if we ate the birds because my parents had a thing for feeding us roadkill.
So here's how, if someone said, like, explain Jessica to me. She's a little bit Martha Stewart because she does, like, she probably makes her own yogurt and bread and oatmeal and, like, every day she comes in with something she's made. She sews, she gardens.
Does she remind you a little bit of Anne in those kinds of qualities?
No, because Anne is very violent, where Jessica seems very peaceful.
But I feel like Anne knows all of these little tricks and knows how to do all of these.
Yeah, Jessica is
too.
a pioneer woman.
Right.
Mixed, but she also teaches her children. She homeschools her children, so she's also an educator. Mm-hmm. She's now a real estate mogul. she's lived 1,000 lifetimes. She's been shot.
She has been shot. One of the only people I know.
She is the modern day 50 Cent.
Can we talk about this? Because I've never heard this story, and apparently you've been shot. Not 9 times, like 50, but you've been shot at least
50.
once.
50.
Yes.
50.
I've only been shot once. Got an innie and an outie.
One more than me.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about it. I was shot by my husband a couple
And he's
months.
still your husband,
He's still
right?
my husband. Yes,
Okay.
I'm still like you said. What, your first husband, your current husband?
Yes.
I only have the one.
How long ago did this happen?
Oh, just shy of 10 years ago.
Wait, didn't you just celebrate your 10-year anniversary?
Okay, so right
Of
after
being
you guys
shot
got
or being married?
Right after you got married.
It was a shotgun wedding.
No, it was a 40 cal. No, we were going through it was a really stressful time in our lives. Like, you get married, and that's kind of stressful to begin with. But my father-in-law was really sick, and we had some friends over at the house one night, and we'd kind of been dealing with that on and off for weeks. And we were dealing with my father-in-law on and off, not our friends. And we had some friends over, and they were kind of talking about pistols, and they were wanting to know, like, oh, well, you have one. What do you have? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, okay. So
How does it work?
How does it work? Yeah. Well,
What happens if you shoot
We
someone?
needed total demonstration. And we had it out, and we showed them, and then I was getting ready to put it up, and I was sitting on the floor, leaned up against the couch, and my husband was sitting up on the couch right directly behind me. And he's like, hey, let me look at that. And I'm like, okay. And I just, I pass it up to him, and what he didn't realize was that I had put the magazine back in it, and it's a fully loaded magazine. And this particular pistol, in order to break it down, you have to pull the trigger. So you pull the slide back, you flip the breakdown switch thingy, whatever it's called, and then the slide goes forward, and that is what effectively loads a round. And then you point it and you pull the trigger. Well, since there's a round in it and you pulled the trigger, it fired.
Ouch.
Into my back. Well, not in. It sounds very dramatic, and it is in my back.
Jessica,
but
don't.
it's
dramatic. Look at Jaisy's face.
The way she's saying it, just like, I mean, it wasn't really that big of a deal, but it was a big deal.
Well, it was a big deal because I'm sitting there and we're watching this movie. I think we were watching
we continued watching the movie. I told them to carry on.
We were watching Transformers, and I'm like, wow, these sound effects are amazing. And that's like the feeling, that my face expression as I'm turning to look at my friend. And then I guess by the time I got like here, everybody realized what had happened, and my ears weren't ringing because of sound effects from the movie.
It was the gun.
It was ringing from a gunshot that just went off.
So I wish we had, like they do in court, where you have like the doll and like, show me where he touched
Where did
you.
you touch your hair?
Like, so where in your back? Because you said it kind of went. It was a clean. It went.
Oh, so here.
I can touch. This is the Audi hole right here.
It went in through the front.
No, it went in. My spine's right here, and then it went in like right here and out right here, and it's just a
It was like a flesh wound.
fancy flesh wound. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got 2 holes. This is the Audi right here, and then the innie I can't touch. It's like
I wish this is one of those days that I wish there was, like, how people have the cameras in their living room. Like, I know
Yes.
that was probably pre that, but can you imagine?
To have a footage of that? Oh my
Well, I know when you talk about it, you're like, you didn't even realize what had happened
Yeah.
at that point.
And
You're
I'm
like,
sure you were in shock. So what happened after that? Did you like call 911?
somebody did. It was not me. I feel really bad because we were at my mom's house. My mom was there.
You
Our
feel
2
bad.
Catherine
friends-
was there?
Yes. My brother was there, and they come, running out of the room. I guess they came running out of the room. I couldn't see because I was smashed face first into the carpet. Nobody would let me get up, and they're like, I don't know, freaking out. And the couch got thrown out of the way, and the coffee table got thrown out of the way, and I just remember my husband, he started freaking out, and I'm like down there picking leg hairs out of his leg because I needed him to calm
Like,
down.
calm down.
I'm like, it's okay, I'm not dying, I can breathe. Like, the only thing that I'm feeling right now is uncomfortable.
'Cause you won't let me out.
Yeah. And one of our friends that was there, actually, he's like an EMT or a paramedic or like a firefighter, so he had like
muscles.
training.
Oh, I mean training.
Training, yes. I guess there was muscles involved too. And they duct taped a sandwich bag to my back. And then,
Duct tape the sandwich bag to your back.
yes, I am not medically trained as to what the significance of that was.
The sandwich bag. I don't know either. I wouldn't.
It must have worked out okay because you guys are still married.
We're still married.
You now have 2 beautiful children.
We do.
You just celebrated your 10th anniversary. Now, wait a second, though. Here's the concern that I would have. I wonder about your mental stability, because what did they do on their anniversary? Okay, the guy already shot her once. So
they went shooting.
They
need
did to
practice.
shoot automatic weapons.
But they
Yes.
need practice.
Just so that just in case this happens again, they know how to properly shoot it without it going into someone's back.
Is it now like a joke with y'all?
Oh,
like,
it's a huge joke.
You shot me.
It has to be a
like
joke
how
if we're talking about.
like how long did that take to go from like you shot me to like ha 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 you shot me?
Or like, babe, can you get me some water? No, I'm tired. You did shoot me in the
Like
back.
remember that
like
time
9
you shot
years
me?
ago.
Remember that time you shot me?
Okay, fine. I'll go get it.
How long did that take?
I think it took longer for him. I think I came around a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
If you ask him, he'll say that he was a complete a-hole to everybody for probably 6 months or more.
Probably beating himself up, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like I hit I was less than a year and I was just like, but
Yeah.
hey.
Well, because that could have gone so bad.
Oh, yeah. That could have gone way
It
worse.
really
So
could have. The people that were in the room that weren't me said that the bullet should have taken my chest out. Like the
geez.
trajectory and the angle, but then where the bullet actually ended up at was like, I don't know, 15 minutes away from there or something.
So let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
So you guys are involved in the rodeo a little bit too, aren't you?
We were.
Well, tell me about that.
He was.
Yeah?
So he, my husband, was a bullfighter. I don't know how many years, probably 15 years. He started in high school, and then he rodeoed, and he spent his time in the military, and then he came back and he rodeoed some more, and yeah, he went to,
So when y'all met, he was
Yes.
rodeoing.
yes.
I've been to the Fort Worth rodeo, and there was this cute thing where they have the little kids coming out. It's something bussin'.
Mutton
Mutton bussin'.
Mutton bussin'.
Mutton bussin'. Was that what he was doing?
No, they have scholarships for kids that do stuff like that.
Like a rhinestone
No,
cow.
he stood in front of the bulls with the horns.
Oh, like with the flag?
No.
He-
He was a rodeo bullfighter, where so
How do you fight a bull?
you've got the chute, and you've got a bull, and you've got a rider on the bull, and then the chute comes out, and the guy spins around, hopefully makes it to 8 seconds, but then you have to get that cowboy out of the arena without him getting plowed over. And so the fighters step in, and they're able to read the bull's body language and sneak in there and distract them, and
So the cowboy can get out.
so the cowboy can get out.
So how many injuries did he suffer during that part of his life? Because I know that's a dangerous sport.
A lot.
I mean, I know he wasn't shot, but we're not talking about that anymore.
He's had we stopped counting concussions.
wow.
So I know personally when I'm around people who are concussed, I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
he's concussed.
Like you're talking about Brian that
Yes,
ran
talking
into
about
the
Brian,
pole.
yes.
Yeah.
He's had lots of concussions. He had his ear torn
Mike Tyson?
partially off.
Oh, wow.
That was a couple stitches. Nothing else really bad except for the one that ended this whole
Oh, no.
endeavor. He got flipped, and this was probably the worst concussion he'd ever had. And then he also dislocated his ankle.
Oh, my goodness.
So your ankle is supposed to, like, your
He
foot
just
is-
hurt Bill. Like
Yeah.
he just clenched up a little
Your
bit.
foot's supposed to be facing one direction, then you kind of twisted it around and face it upwards, pointing the other direction, and it was
No
It
way.
was pretty gross. That
So
one was pretty
And that was the one where it was like, all right, this
what's
is
the
it.
difference in a rodeo clown and a bullfighter?
well.
I mean, they kind of serve the
They're
same
the
purpose,
same.
right?
Yes,
One
they're
wears
the
makeup,
same.
one doesn't.
Pretty much. That's there's the traditional where they wear baggies with suspenders and
Like you
Western
wore that
shirts.
day.
Yeah, with the fringe, and it's
Right.
very Western cowboy-y, kind of what you think of a clown. And then, as the sport has advanced, they've got guys in jerseys now, so they're more bullfighters. So
Gotcha.
they're wearing like the motocross jerseys and.
Do they wear
shorts.
helmets now too?
No.
Okay.
Not that
For
I've
some
seen.
reason not. Oh, maybe it's the bull riders that are wearing
bull
helmets
riders are
now.
wearing
Yeah.
helmets.
So have you thought about going and doing this?
No.
No?
No.
So how does a girl from California come to Texas and just be like, I want one of those, and you marry a bullfighter? That seems like such extreme.
We can credit my aunt to all of this because when I came to Texas, it was my 18th birthday. Present to myself was to come to Texas and to visit my aunt, and she's like, I've got this guy. You got to meet this guy. And I'm like, whatever. No, I don't.
Yeah. And so she lived in this part of town too? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You came here just to visit?
Just to visit.
And she introduced you.
And she introduced me.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
And then your mom came from California to be with you?
She stalked me.
Oh, she followed you, yeah.
That's the thing with parents.
It worked good, though.
They just don't leave you alone.
I know.
You know, they're always there.
So I want to talk a little bit about homeschooling too, because a lot of parents, of course, the last couple of years, that was new to them. Mm-hmm. So you've got twins that are how old?
I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
They're not twins?
No.
Why did I think they were twins?
Everybody thinks they're twins around here.
They look the same. Okay, well, let's start over.
So
you've got two kids. Yes. So are you just homeschooling the 6-year-old then?
That is impossible.
Okay, so what are you doing?
If both of them are there, I'm homeschooling both of them.
Okay, so the 3-year-old's just probably going to be advanced because...
Yes, I'm thinking, I'm new to this. I figured I'll start in kindergarten. How bad can I screw up kindergarten?
Yeah.
I can't. If it goes really bad, there's still a chance I can have somebody else take over.
How has it been going so far?
It's been good.
So did you get through calculus this year?
Yeah.
We did. No. It's learning. It's very strange to know that, if I'm flipping through this book that I bought to teach my kids, and I'm like, I don't like that. I don't get that. I have no idea what your end goal is. I just rip the page out and go on to the next one. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Like this page was missing in the book.
Yeah.
Birds.
So is this something, were you homeschooled or is this just something you wanted to do?
I grew up kind of around some homeschooled kids, and I thought homeschool was not anything I was ever I'm like, those are the weird kids.
Yeah.
They're so strange. And they're not strange. And once I realized that all of the possibilities were open, that my kids could go to public school, they can go to private school, they can go to charter school, they can go to homeschool, they could, all the options are available to me right now, which wasn't the case when I was a kid. I'm like, well,
what works best for us?
I'm gonna try homeschooling.
And so you teach twice a week? Is that what you said? Twice a week?
I shoot for 45 minutes. I try to do at least 4 days a week. It doesn't always work out. But then again, that's me and having to let go of what traditional schooling is just because we didn't sit down with a book doesn't mean we didn't work on something.
Right. So is there a lot of natural teaching of things like, hey, come help me make breakfast.
Help me make my yogurt.
Yeah, how many eggs are we using? And then they count them or
we're
more
getting
practical
into that.
life skills.
That's where we're heading. I had him help him make like a muffin mix, telling him like, you got to fill it all the way to the top. You can't just fill this cup up half of the way. Yeah. And then sometimes it's just, hey, like, what do you want to talk about? What do you like? You go get the book, and then I'll read it to you. And seeing what it is that they're gravitating towards is really interesting. I mean, my son is hardcore tractors all the time. Tractors. I mean, and it's been this way. He's 6. I've done 5 tractor birthday parties.
Oh, wow.
So this is not something
not a phase.
Yeah, it's not a phase. So we're talking about articulated loaders and I don't know, all of the tractors. We're not just saying, it's a tractor, it's a green tractor, it's a yellow tractor. No, we're talking about that's an extended boom tractor, whatever.
That's awesome. And does he know all the implements and everything?
Probably, yes.
That's awesome.
I mean, okay. I got him the sales manual from a John Deere dealership on balers. You know what a baler is?
Like a hay baler?
Yes, it's the thing you pull behind and it bales the hay. I had to read the sales catalog on balers to my son. He's like, Mom, I want you to read this one. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's a 456 WX150. And
so you've got to take him to, have you seen the real life tractor playground that they've created?
Is it in Houston?
Houston.
Nikki is taking her son this weekend for its birthday, but it's like for adults, I think, too, but they'll let kids sit in things, but you can use, a front end loader. You can, whatever you want is there, and you can, most kids just want to watch it. They just want to see it in action. But
this kid's
probably blow his mind.
He's going to want to drive it, and he will probably do a good job.
How that is, because my kids I've got 2 boys, and my oldest is 4, and he is very much about any sort of vehicle, like anything, an
with
airplane.
wheels.
And he knows all the names for like the construction cars. He'll be like, that's an excavator. That's a digger. No, that's this. That's that. That's this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? How do you know all of these things? Right. It's very interesting, but...
So with homeschool, you can direct kind of what their interests are instead of... Because I feel like public school is always like, everybody has to do this.
To learn everything. Yep.
And the test. If it's not on the test, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. Do you have to have a certain amount of hours that they do per week?
I haven't found anything. They gave us 5 subjects that you have to touch on through, like, the state of Texas requires. I can't even remember what they are right now. But it's real basic, like math, reading, writing. Like there's
at that age, there's not anything to, once you get in, I think reading is going to be not the hardest.
Which I think they softly started in kindergarten, right? And then they started in first grade, yeah.
So I have a question. Mm-hmm. You've got a really good Facebook presence.
Well, they're going to say face. You have a really good face.
Yeah, that would go over well if you met my wife. Yes. You've got a really good Facebook presence. Have you always been on Facebook, or is this something relatively new for you?
I've always had a Facebook account. I guess when they let mere mortals, non-college students have one.
Right, after you didn't have to have a .edu anymore.
Yeah. I guess I'm just now finally embracing what you can do with it.
Yeah, because recently I've seen you doing this thing called Wingin' It Wednesdays. And I've got to be honest with you, it's one of my favorite things each week to watch. Is I set my clock by it. You're not always on time. Sometimes it's winging it Thursdays on winging it Wednesdays.
She was winging it.
But I enjoy it. So what made you come up with that? What's the concept behind that?
I'm lazy.
You're lazy. It doesn't look like something somebody lazy would do.
You get wrapped up in your day, and that's why it was on Thursday one week, because you get wrapped up and you're going and you're working and you're living, and then it's, the next morning, and I go, I forgot something.
I forgot to wing it.
I forgot to wing it.
So what is the Wing It Wednesday about? What do you do on there?
I just try to pick something that's floating through this weird mind and I guess bring it up.
Dehydrated water.
Dehydrated water. Doesn't that make you giggle?
Yeah.
Makes me laugh. I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. But you just pull something out of thin air and see where it goes. Because do you have a really good friend where you just sit there and you just kind of start shooting with them, and you start off on one topic.
No one's shooting anything.
No shooting.
It's a safe space for you.
You start winging it, and you start on one subject, and you kind of talk about a whole bunch of other things, and then all of a sudden you end up at something that ties into the initial subject.
Yeah.
Like you just go complete circle.
Bunny trail out of it. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's fascinating. And
that's kind of what happens out here. Mm-hmm. I'm pointing out here our office when we sit out here, the bullpen or whatever you want to call it. We can't repeat most of what's said out there.
No.
But
what happens in the office stays in the office.
We talk about some stuff, and it does come back around, usually to the same thing or to the same person, Anna. Anna's tea's ready. Well, I'm gonna have to say I'm guilty. I've not watched your Wing It Wednesday, but I'm gonna have to start because now I'm interested.
Well, you got to learn about this new thing called dehydrated water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a phenomenon.
She explains all about it.
Okay.
And how it's healthy and everything else. So there's another thing though that I've seen. Since you started, I've seen the very fact that you took a concept, and one of the only people that I've ever worked with that'll actually say, okay, they say do it, so I'm going to do it.
Isn't that a weird concept?
It makes me uncomfortable, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try it.
And I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I am impressed, and I've seen some success coming from this too.
She's one of the hardest workers in the office for sure.
Yeah. It is absolutely fantastic. Yes. So
with that,
we've got this little segment we like to call Tales from the Lockbox.
And I've been told, Jessica, that you have a story about repo and cars.
Ooh.
And I want to hear more.
I feel like you've lived many lives. You've had lots of hats, and in one of your hats,
and they're all dangerous.
Cars, yes. Tell us this story.
Let me think. Which one? I guess the one that left the biggest impression. We were not the type of repo organization that had the truck where you back up real quick and you snatch it up.
Like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, no, we were not cool like that. It was me and a lady, Cheryl. She was awesome. And we would just drive around in her car, and we had keys. We had copies of keys to the cars that we were going to go repossess. And one of them, it'd been a long time since we got in a car. We're like, oh my gosh, we got to get something. And we pulled up. We're like, there's nobody around. It's in an empty parking lot. Sure, no problem. So she pulls up, and I jump out, and I get in, and I look up, and the guy, I'm guessing who owns the car, starts coming. He's like, I don't know where he came from. He's headed this way. And I reach to shut the door, and the entire panel of the door like just falls off in my hand.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh great. And so I can't get the door closed, and he yanks the door open, and I don't recall him ever getting actually physical, like trying to pull me out, but he was being very intimidating-y.
Oh, sorry. I just got scared. Sorry.
And anyway, it was a big to-do, and I wouldn't get out, and he, I guess, didn't want to go to the point of like pulling me out, and all his friends were circled around the car, and the cops got called, and we were not in a very safe place. And then the cops showed up, and they're like, well, you have to let them take the car because it's like you haven't made your payments. And I'm like, yes. But then they were going to let him get all his stuff out. So he's getting all his stuff out, and I'm trying not to like lose it because I'm like so scared. I'm surrounded by all these people. And he's getting like, he is like disassembling this car. Like he's taking his speakers out, and he's just everything. And then he reaches up between the two passenger seats, and he grabs a rope. And I'm like, what are you doing with this rope? And he cuts it. And I'm like, and he goes, good luck taking my car now that you don't have no gas pedal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I finally looked down and realized that the rope threaded through the floorboard to the gas pedal, and you had to pull the rope to pull the pedal, the throttle or something like that.
So he just cut it.
So when to drive, did you just pull the string to go instead of pushing the gas pedal?
Yes.
What kind of car was this?
I want to say it was like either like a 90s Blazer or an old Ford Explorer or something like that. And he thought that he had me. He cut that rope, and he thought that he had me, but he left me a couple of inches.
Oh, I love when they do that.
And so I didn't have anything but a bungee cord to tie to this little nub. And think about that, a bungee, yes. So the door is like slapped on there. It's kind of hanging on by a thread, and then I have a bungee cord attached to the gas pedal, and you're going like this, trying to pull it, yeah. So,
how far did you have to go with it?
Oh my goodness.
I had to get on a major freeway.
Was the car even worth enough to...
Someone was making
Makes
payments on a
sense.
car that drove with a rope.
Yes, that sounds like an episode of Pimp My Car.
It doesn't matter. 'Cause
Shout
I
out
got paid
Exhibit.
the same.
Yeah, so
And
I
that's got to be a scary job.
I know that the one female officer that was there, she got in my face and told me she never wanted to see me in that neighborhood again.
Oh, wow.
And that
You're like, okay.
usually they're not showing up to live people.
did you say yes, ma'am?
I sure did.
And did you obey her?
No, I did not.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was going to be the next, So you went back and did it again.
But the best part of the story is you didn't get shot repoing cars. You got shot watching.
Yes.
A
You got
movie-
shot watching
Transformers.
Transformers. Transformers is the most dangerous movie you can watch.
So
everyone.
it just goes to show that you can get shot anywhere.
Yes.
So
No one is safe.
go to the dangerous neighborhoods if you want to. Live your life. Don't be scared.
It's always the
that's our
husband.
level up.
I'll say it's always the husband.
I think I am going to level
Yes,
up on all
please do,
this.
because that was not good advice.
Yeah, not good advice. So, as many people know that listen to this, we like to read. We listen to a lot of stuff, and one of those happens to be Earl Nightingale. And Earl Nightingale has a series out called "How to Completely Change Your Life in 30 Seconds." And here's one of the things that he says: "Don't be afraid to try new things. You can measure opportunity with the same yardstick that measures the risk involved. They go together."
Oh, that's good.
So you got to get out there and you got to try things. You got to try being a target for a 40 millimeter. You got to
always-
try to drive a car with a piece of rope,
Bungee, a nub.
A nub.
a nub. You've got to homeschool your kids.
Yes.
But Jessica, this has been wonderful. You're just
Yes.
an all-around
Thank
great
you so
person.
much.
Yeah.
And
So well-rounded.
I could see you coming back and doing this again and telling us more stories.
Yes.
Sure.
You start writing. You start writing your book now.
We actually got to bring her husband with. I want to get the other
As long as
side.
he's
of
not
the
armed.
gunshot.
I want to hear his reasoning, how his play-by-play of the story.
If he's not armed, he's welcome
Yeah.
here.
Well, even if he is armed. I just wanted to know that he's got the 40 cal pointed somewhere else.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being here. We hope to have you again. And thank you all for listening. We will put links down below to anything that we talked about.
To nubs.
But PB and Jaisy, we out.
We out.
Just had a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.